Okay, so now we're moving on to the next part of our notes. This is the same question. So you can keep this under your motivation notes, or if you put the question that's written here, what motivated Europeans to come to the New World, that's still the same notes. We're just at a new section. We're moving on to look at some of the places that came about, some of the settlements, and how we sort of got people to want to come to the New World. So, just real quick, we were talking about how we were in England, we're over in Europe, talking about migration. So there's push and pull factors of what causes people to want to move. A big deal was religion. Everybody was pretty much the same, and then some things started happening, like the printing press came out, and people were able to think for themselves a little bit more. So new ideas developed. This is the Protestant Reformation by Martin Luther. He sparked that thanks to the printing press, and so people started traveling to the New World. Some groups of people based on religion that came over here were the separatist groups. They broke away from the Church of England. They said the Bible is being misconstrued and we believe the Bible, so we want to make a new group, a new religion. So we have Pilgrims and Puritans, we have Quakers, and they're all in the New World. Things aren't perfect, but they're better for them. But some drama happens. There's still some bad things that happen. In Hutchinson, she got excommunicated or banished from her colony for speaking what she believed was right. The Salem witch trials happened, so there were some people who were accused of witchcraft in Massachusetts, especially in Salem, and things didn't end well for most of them, not, or a lot of them. 30 were found guilty, 19 were executed by hanging. The Quakers, even though they came over here and they were fine, some people still didn't like them, so they had to have a place of refuge in their own new world, and that is Pennsylvania. And Roger Williams, he saw this and he said, all right, we need to have a separation of church and state. That's really important because that's something that still exists today. So, moving on, this is the new stuff. Write this down. How do we get to the New World? So, England wanted to set up permanent colonies. So, they wanted to set up permanent places for people to stay. So, they had this thing called a charter, and that was a document giving permission to start a colony. And it's all about the money. So, it costs a lot to get one of these. It costs a lot to start up a new place, build from the ground up. So, what would happen, write this down, there were these companies, these joint stock companies, which are like modern day, like big corporations. So, they worked to establish colonies in North America. They would get money, they would get people, they would get the supplies. Usually, the king of England would back them. So, they had a whole lot of money. They were like, okay, if you give us some money, we'll go out and we'll make sure that we have the best stuff to get started. So that's pretty much what happened. Roanoke. This is one colony. Write this down. That came about. It's called the Lost Colony, where it's known as the Lost Colony now, and it was the first English settlement in North America. So it failed. Everybody disappeared. Pretty much what happened. Short version: John White was the leader of this colony. He goes and he's like, okay, we're doing great. Oh, we're running out of supplies. I'll run back to England, get some, and bring them back. So he goes. While he's gone, he has to go across the ocean on his boat. So didn't have a motor. So he's going across the ocean back to England. There's a war. So he gets held up. He's like, oh man. So he's gone for a long time. Whenever he gets back, there's nobody there. There's not a trace that anybody was there. And he's like, I know this is where Roanoke was. What's going on? So the only clue that he had was there was, and you can see that in the picture there was this word called Croatoan that was carved into a post where they were at. So he's like, maybe they went to this new island. Maybe they were captured by native people. Maybe they just starved to death and died. I don't know what happened. So it's called the Lost Colony. We don't really know exactly what happened, but it didn't turn out. So later on, Jamestown comes about, and this, write this down, this is the first permanent English settlement in North America. So they started it. It had some struggles we'll look at later, but it ended up thriving. So John Smith took control of the town, and he did things like made people work harder, and he developed relationships with the people who were already there, which was a group of Native Americans. So pretty much people were doing sort of their own thing. And think about that. If you had nobody to tell you, even though you don't like it, at school, if you had nobody to tell you what to do, then you would just be wandering aimlessly in here. You would learn nothing, you would get nothing accomplished. So it is good to have a leader, it's good to have somebody in charge. So that really helped Jamestown thrive. So this question came up. You don't have to write this down. Do I really want to come to the New World? After Roanoke, people were concerned. They said, I don't know, it's a little scary. But Jamestown started to flourish, but people were still a little nervous to leave their homes in England. They had a life, it may not be the best, but it was good. It was fine. But do they really want to leave and give all that up for maybe just to come over to the New World and die? Also, what if they couldn't find the money to travel? That was a big thing. Not everybody is going to be part of a joint stock company. Not everybody is the king of England. Not everybody has a lot of money. So, and it costs a lot to go across the ocean to a new place. So there's this thing, write this down, called the headright system that they implemented. And this is pretty much a grant of land was given to settlers in the colonies. And that was usually something huge like 50 acres. And it attracted new settlers. So it pulled people in. That means it's a pull factor of migration. People said, hey, they're going to grant me land, a whole lot of land in this new place. I'll come there. So they increased the population in the New World, and it helped with labor, like at the farms, at the harbors, and anywhere else that they were working to make some money or to help support the town. So you get people, you get workers. This is a good thing. Later, though, there were more things that came about. The headright system, I mean, you run out of land pretty quickly. So there were these things called indentured servants. Write this down. These were individuals who received free passage to North America in exchange for working without pay for a certain number of years, usually 5 to 7. So pretty much this was somebody who's like, oh, I have a lot of money, but I really don't want to work my land. I know this poor person in England who really wants to come over here, but they can't afford it. Hey, how about you, person from England, come over here and work for me, and I'll pay for your way here. You just got to work off your debt. So people were like, cool, that's good. They could come over and they could work for a little while, and they would have a place to stay, and they would have food, and they would have people to be around. And then in just a few years, they would be debt free. That's good. They people liked that. Eventually, though, you ran out of people who thought that was a good idea. There were people who were like, I don't really want to come over there and work for somebody. I may not even like that person. What if they don't let me go in 5 to 7 years? Yeah, I'm not doing that. So think about what could happen if we run out, if we have a demand for work, for labor, but we don't have a supply of people who are willing to do that. What do you think is going to happen if there's people who there's work to be done, but there's not people who are willing to do the work? What could come about from that? That's what we'll talk about and more in our next section of notes.